Recording in progress.
All right, we are calling to order the Gig Harbor Arts Commission meeting Wednesday, January 12th, 2022 at 10:02 a.m. First order of business is roll call. I will call your names as I see you. Charlie Glock, and just say here, Charlie Glock Jackson, Chair. Robin Ovni, Vice Chair.
Here.
Lynn Stevenson.
Here.
Dan Bosich.
Here.
Linda Sutherland.
Here.
And we are missing Jennifer Beard and boy, I'm getting feedback too. Samantha. So we'll introduce them when they come, but let's just go ahead. We also have Josh Stecker, city clerk. Josh is the official city clerk, everyone. I just want you to know that.
Congratulations, Josh. I didn't know that.
Hey, congratulations, Josh.
We are thrilled to know that. And we have Anastasia Wright. Anastasia, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, it's very nice to be here. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Anastasia Wright. I'm from the Parks Commission.
Great.
I will be one of the liaisons between the commissions.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. And we'll recall that Lynn Stevenson is going to be our primary contact with liaison with the Parks Commission. And we're just going to be paying attention to what each other are doing as commissions and see how we can help one another out. So we also have our new Parks Administrator. Mr. Keogh, please introduce yourself.
Good morning. What a pleasure to be with you guys. I'm thrilled to get to know you and work with you ahead in the time ahead.
Great. And you just started last month?
That's right. I did start on the 27th of December. It was a quiet time to come in, but it won't stay quiet. I can tell. It won't stay quiet.
Very true. And some Commissioner Kelly has joined us now. Welcome, Samantha. And we also have Laura Pettit, the city's Communication and Tourism Director. Morning, Laura. You're muted. Okay, so moving right along. Let us approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was November 17th, 2021. Seems like ages ago. I trust everyone has read the minutes. Are there any changes or corrections? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move 17th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, just raise your hand or say aye. And that looks like the minutes of the November 17th, 2021 Arts Commission meeting are approved. So first discussion items. I will turn this over to Tourism and Communication Director Laura Pettit to talk to us about a really cool idea that she has for using murals as a tourism destination. Go ahead, Laura.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this meeting. I'm not sure if any of you were able to get down to North Harborview Drive over the holiday, but we had a really, really great mural done by Hillary Isaacson, and it was a Peace and Joy mural. It had a glow-in-the-dark component so that the stars twinkled at night, and was really, really lovely. That was funded by the Tourism Department, the LTAC fund, and kind of gave birth to a larger idea on how we can use art to promote Gig Harbor as a tourism destination, specifically for Instagram-friendly photos, murals, interactive art, pieces that can really stand out and tell the story of who we are in Gig Harbor. And I always use the example I'm sure a lot of you remember when that stop sign at the old QFC said, "Can't stop loving you." I returned to Houston, where I was living, a few days later, and I found another stop sign, graffiti, but it said, "Stop trusting everybody." And I felt like that was really indicative of the wonderful outlook that we have as a city here in Gig Harbor versus some other places. And it really kind of told a story of who we are in a very avant-garde way. I think it also has the potential to draw tourism to different parts of Gig Harbor and utilize currently underutilized wall spaces and beautify the city. With that, I'd love to explore ways that we could potentially underwrite a Points of Delight campaign concurrent with the Arts Commission and the Tourism Department. So I have some examples of things that have done really well. I know a lot of people have seen great murals in Nashville and Austin on their travels, in Seattle. For example, this is terrible and we should never do this here, but the gum wall is a photo-friendly place for people to take photos and tell people where they are, something unique that stands out and provides a sense of place. We should never do anything gun related, in my mind. But we have some opportunities to think of really interesting ways to portray who we are, utilize some spaces throughout town. One of the really cool stories, I'm going to pull up I'm going to share my screen if I can. There we go. Screen. One of my favorite murals is the Austin You're My Butter Half mural. It's where everyone goes to take their engagement photos, people of all ages. Really wonderful. It's on the side of an old Boys and Girls Club. It's in the middle of East Austin, middle of nowhere, but it drives tourism, and it was defaced. I'm really sorry about that one. So we'll go back up. But really just very simple, very straightforward, a great photo opportunity. And what it does, and what we saw with that Peace and Joy mural, stop share. What we saw with that Peace and Joy mural is that we were seeing that all over social media. People were tagging downtown Gig Harbor and taking their family photos in front of that mural. We'd like for that to continue. I think that's a really, really great way to tell a story of who we are. So on that note too, I know that you have great outreach into the community. You've seen things that you think are things that we could emulate in Gig Harbor or do better, or provide opportunities for families to take photos. I think Charlie was one of the recipients of my late night pun brainstorming on what we could put together. And my best idea, based on a fish theme, was two salmon holding fins with a sign that said, "You're my chum." So that's all I've got. That's my best pun. There's a few more. Something to do with sand dollars and $1 million view. Open to ideas, open to talking that through. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you're at currently and how this may align with tourism. I also just want to open the doors of communication for things like the carving projects so we can get images out ahead of time. I know we didn't want anyone to see the process this time, but it really goes under the kind of headline of a Points of Delight campaign and things that people can explore. I know we've previously talked about doing an arts map of Gig Harbor. That's been pushed a little bit lower on the priority list, but I still think that's a great idea. And maybe we can start with something digital and a Google Map points of interest so that we can have something that people can explore and that can be linked to on our visitgigharborlaw.com website.
Wonderful. I think this is just a stellar idea. Let me ask you, try to get some more specifics. You're wanting us, of course, to keep our eyes open for possible locations, canvases. With you, I mean, you're doing it as well. Parks commissioners are probably also doing it. So would funding for this come from LTAC then?
Ideally, we'd love to see that be a joint effort. One of the other items that could be discussed too, and maybe could use some heightened communication, is Creative Endeavor grants and LTAC grant recipients, and just ensuring that if there is any crossover, that we're communicating that appropriately. I know part of our application, and Josh, you can confirm this, is that we asked if they're applying for any other funds from the city. It looks like in our last year, maybe one event did apply for funds from the Creative Endeavor grant as well as the LTAC grant, and may not have appropriately communicated that. But I think there are opportunities where we could find joint funding and opportunities to work together. So maybe the LTAC budget for these specific art tourism projects complements the existing arts budget for things that you have in the works, or that we find ways to complement goals and work together.
Right, excellent. We'll work that out. Commissioners, let's have some discussion about this. Any comments, ideas? Lynn, I bet you have ideas galore. Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, Laura, I haven't seen this mural. It's still out
It's
there.
still up. It's going into storage shortly, and we are discussing a spring mural idea. However, I want to make sure that we're not over allocating ourselves our budget or timing in order to get that up and done. I also want to make sure the topic is correct. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of I want to make sure the topic is correct, and I want to make sure it's straightforward, simple, and identifiable as being in Gig Harbor. And it also calls out to that sense of place. So that's another important part of the tourism aspect, is that you need to know that it's something that represents Gig Harbor specifically. So we can do a beautiful mural on Spring is Here, but that doesn't necessarily say, hey, you're in Gig Harbor right now. This is our history. This is what happens every spring. The Chum Festival, I think, is really cool, and that's where the You're My Chum idea came from. We can always put identifiable markers on that, but yeah, that's where my criteria would enter as well when it comes to the tourism needs and the side of that and the funding for that.
I love this. This is Robin. I love this idea. I have to give a shout out to my hometown, Philadelphia, which is actually what started this whole mural movement. They did it too, and it's been really quite successful. Yeah. And I think that they could give us, if we looked at some of their mural efforts, could give us a good guideline, because they did a lot of history in their mural work, and also what they did in their mural work. It was really a way to have a lot of equity and inclusion of different populations in their mural work. So I could see us looking at maybe an Indigenous mural in an appropriate spot, honoring Indigenous peoples. But I also think there's a fun side to it as well. I mean, certainly we have boats, certainly we have fisher, the history of the net sheds, those type of things. So I think there's a lot that we can draw from. I also want to, full disclosure, the mural you're talking about was on the side of my good friend Haley's building from all of us. And Haley is a real go-getter, and she has access to all sorts of artists and illustrators, as well as doing an open call for them. And I would encourage us to engage her as an active partner in this. I'll twist her arm, but I don't think it'll take much twisting. She's very proud of it. She had this vision for a while for this mural by Devoted Kiss. So I just think this is great all around. And let's move this forward. I'm excited about the idea.
Yes, Haley was instrumental, and someone I've been talking with and working with closely, and was gracious enough to loan the wall. So yeah, she was wonderful to work with on that part.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I wanted to ask. So you're saying this is going back in permanent building. What I got to go see this thing.
Sure. So this one
So
specifically, because it was holiday related. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so you're going to bring it back next year, so you reuse it. Okay.
Yes, so it was covered in paint that prevents graffiti or makes it easy to clean. It's also on panels, so it can be stored very carefully and put up again next year.
Oh, okay. So you're not just talking about a project that existing buildings.
You know, we can look at some of those. I think if they're holiday related, if we're going to make the investment in a piece of art like that, then we want it to be more than one season. So the panel idea is really quite ingenious, and coating it I think is also a great idea to prevent any kind of, well, you saw you're my better half, sad graffiti, but you know, prevent any kind of criminal activity, if you will. I think a permanent mural is a great idea. I think there's been a couple of places talked about, including at Simpson, at Rosedale. Oh no, I'm sorry, Simpson Harborview. That Auto Speedy Glass Shop with the wall on the side. It's a little bit of a difficult place to get to. Parts would be my only concern there. But I think we have opportunities for permanent installations as well. So I know this is something very, very small. I'm going to share my screen again one more time.
Laura, did you talk to Mayor Kuhn about, you know, he had a project in the works to put signage underneath Donkey Creek Bridge overpass where that walkway is. There's a huge wall there. I don't know if anything ever came.
Oh, so I think that, and Josh, maybe you can speak to this a little bit too. I think that's actually the culvert that may be replaced. So I'm not sure that would be permanent installation. I think that maybe looking at federal funding for replacement on widening that culvert and removing that. But I also think if we have visibility from cars, that's going to get a better engagement level.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the gum wall. People, I've never seen it because I've looked for it, a little hidden, so people seek it out. So it, people will find those things once they get, you know, publicized. But I just wanted to point out too, it wouldn't just have to be a mural. We talked about at one love locks, some kind of sculpture so that people can put their locks on it and just something like that. That's maybe a 3-dimension as well. It wouldn't maybe just think differently as about that, about, you know, what along with.
Have you seen the piece where it frame the mountain and the I forget what bridge name that is, right over into the port. But if you catch the right angle, it looks like they're opening the bridge to showcase the mountain. And that was just a really ingenious sculpture that's a little bit interactive. And again, the Philadelphia Love sculpture. I've even thought about doing life-size Big Harbor letters, but omitting the I so that somebody stands right there to take their picture. Big Harbor. I think that might be too safe, but there's no I in Big Harbor.
Yeah,
not sure. You know, I think it's a brainstorming opportunity to figure out things that, and they also don't have to be large scale. They can. And they also don't have to be large scale. That there could be a lot of stuff for smaller things too. And I know you guys have seen those yarn bombing opportunities at 6th Avenue that got a lot of press. I'm going to share my screen one more time and just see if I can get this up.
Hey, Laura, sorry to interrupt, but Len, the feedback's coming from your computer, so if you can stay on mute when you're not talking, that'll help everybody out. Thanks.
So this is a piece from Condé Nast Traveler, and this is another really fun story. This is on the side. It's just a small amount of graffiti on the side of a coffee shop. And the story behind it is that the owner of the coffee shop wanted to propose to her girlfriend and knew that she drove by this every day on her commute. And so this was a Valentine. And it said, "I love you so much." And it was intended to be covered up like in the next week when they renovated the coffee shop. But it was so popular and it just really brought joy into so many people's hearts that drove by it that they wanted it to stay. And I thought that was a really interesting story too. So we don't necessarily have to invest you know, in a $5,000 mural and a large scale thing, we can do small pieces that really spark joy. Not to be Marie Kondo about it, but those small things that really make a difference when you're driving through, or I think we have opportunities there, and that's what I'm really trying to engage your creativity on, is those opportunities that you might find, or small things that you see throughout town, or people that you engage with that have good ideas, and they can be a little bit outside the norm, like the "Can't Stop Loving You" stop sign. I think we have an opportunity even to put something like that together, and maybe on the side of a building in, you know, in Gig Harbor on the west side near Metropolitan Market where the initial sign was. I think those are all opportunities. So that's really the extent of my presentation. I am very, very excited to engage with all of you further, do some brainstorming, and find out if there are ways that we can mutually benefit both goals of the Arts Commission and goals of LTAC through tourism, through pieces of art and a Points of Delight campaign.
Excellent. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much, Laura. Any other discussion from arts commissioners on this? This might be something that we could include in our creative endeavor grants that we're going to be talking about in just a few minutes. Or maybe it's something that we should, as Laura, I think, is suggesting, just brainstorm on as a group further. Maybe even, and Josh, I don't want to have any more meetings that have to be, you know, recorded and noticed and that kind of thing. So maybe Josh, do you think that maybe the best thing would be to have a subcommittee for this? Or shall we just think about it?
I think you can just think about it, and if, you know, one or two of you want to get together and talk about it, that's fine. And if you have thoughts, just send them to Laura. I don't know that there needs to be anything official unless you want to come back at a future meeting and talk about it again, but it sounds like Laura's just looking for ideas at this point.
Fine with me. How does everybody feel about that? Just keep our thinking caps on and keep looking. And as I understand, and Laura, I'm sad to say I missed some of what you were saying, but it sounds like that they can be permanent installations, but more likely they will be murals that are painted on canvas or 2x4x8s or something like that. Or what was this one painted on?
No, the existing mural that's seasonal is painted on panels in order to be removable and used next season. Because there's no real point to do a holiday mural if you're just going to take it down after a month, right?
Right.
That seems like an investment. But if we're also looking for permanent installations as well. So they don't have to be large scale. They can be something smaller. But again, anything that falls under the Points of Delight kind of headline, whether it be something that's small all the way to a large scale permanent mural. It doesn't have to be just murals either. It can be something that's a small installation, or, you know, I'm very open. I talked to the woman who runs the Monkey Shines program in Tacoma and encouraged her to apply for an LTAC grant. She ultimately didn't receive funding because she needed the full $20,000 grant. But about doing something around, what was it? Salmon and the harvest of salmon and the spawning season, and putting, you know, small bits of glass ornaments throughout town for people to find. That's still environmentally friendly, but it's also something that gets people out and looking through the community. That's probably more locally based than tourism based, but could be something that we publicized every year. So it can really open your minds. Anything is a good idea that we can start discussing and figure out what we can do. And again, something as little as that "I love you so much" graffiti sign got national press and drives people to take photos in Austin all the time. So we have opportunities to do that here. We have free walls. We have a huge amount of creativity in this community. And I think we can leverage that to get a little bit more tourism. I think you're all aware of the trend of people traveling for the gram and traveling in order to take pictures that are wonderful in very specific locations. And I think we can leverage that. I think we can use some of our joint wisdom and joint funding to make that happen throughout town.
Wonderful idea. And you mentioned the monkey shines. It makes me think of the Lincoln City, Oregon. I'm sure you know, every year has, they have quite a glass art community there, and they, local glass artists blow floats, just round glass balls, and they hide them all through town and along the seashore there in Lincoln City. And there are, like, I don't know, 100 of them or something like that. And the idea is kind of like a scavenger hunt. And every year, people who know Lincoln City go look for their floats for this year. So there, as you said, there are lots of wonderful possibilities. So what a lovely, exciting idea, Laura. Thank you so much. Josh, can we keep this on our agenda so that we can not lose sight of it?
Yeah, we can put this on for the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other discussion on this? Okay, then, Laura, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all.
We'll keep in touch.
Wonderful to see you all.
Yes. So let's move along to the Creative Endeavor grants. Josh has sent us all a copy of the grant application that we've been using. I don't think we need any changes on it. Does anyone recall having changes that we needed to make on this?
I hope we don't need any changes.
No kidding, Robin. How you have struggled with, I know you and Lynn struggled with, how can we make this an interactive form so that people can get their 500 words in that little box?
Yeah, Lynn has been my road shotgun with me on this, for sure.
Well, the dates have to be changed.
Right. Yeah, I think that's about the only thing, is just change all the dates. I trust that everybody's had a chance to look at this since Josh sent out the file and the agenda several days ago. So we also need to schedule a, when our deadline is going to be, when our question and answer session is going to be, and the time sequence for us making our decision. So Josh, you and I had quite a conversation about this yesterday.
You want me to fill in the commission on what we are hoping to do going forward?
Yes, would you do that, please?
Okay. So I think I've mentioned before, and this has come up a couple of times, but the city, particularly the city clerk's office, is having a bit of a staffing crisis for the next few months. So what I've talked to our city administrator and Charlie about is how we can make this process a little less staff intensive. So one of the things that we're going to do in the past, I think we've held like a special study session or a session where applicants can come and talk to the Arts Commission and get feedback on how to fill out the application. What we're planning to do, and I think Charlie's on board with this, and I think she's talked to a couple of you, is just have a few of you, less than a quorum, just be available for a Zoom call at some point down the road after we get the application launched to talk with people who have questions and who want some guidance on this. So instead of it being a full Arts Commission special meeting, it would just be something where a couple of 2 or 3 of the more knowledgeable arts commissioners could be on hand and ready to give support. That gets us away from some of the OPMA guidelines, and it's not really a business meeting, and kind of makes it a little bit easier for everybody, I hope. So I will let Charlie coordinate that with, I think Lynn has volunteered to be on that group.
As has Robin.
Okay, and then
So,
we can find a good time that works for the 3 of you. And we can set you up with a Zoom conference room, and we'll get it advertised and noticed to everybody that might be interested, and we'll let you take that from there.
I'd like to be involved in that.
If we can only have 3, if we have 4, then it becomes a meeting that has to, an official meeting.
Thanks.
And I asked Lynn and Robin because they've been involved with the Creative Endeavor grants from the beginning and are probably the best qualified to answer any questions that new applicants might have. I definitely wasn't trying to exclude anyone. I was trying to, we were just trying to make it easy for, not problematic for Josh with all the rules and regulations, hoops that we have to jump through if we have more than 3 people, 3 commissioners meeting. And because Lynn and Robin have been involved in the whole application process from day one, I asked them to please be on this little subcommittee. And all it is just the opportunity for people that may be applying for the first time to ask questions of, if they have any question about any of our open blanks on the grant, they can ask us our questions. It's definitely not something that takes an entire Arts Commission meeting to do. And there may not even be any questions this year. So
Can I make a request, since this wasn't an open call for commissioners to join this subcommittee, that you not entertain any presentations from any candidates that will unduly influence your vote for their acceptance into the grant?
Oh, they're not going to be giving us any presentations at all. They're going to be just asking questions about what do you really mean by free performances or something like that.
Okay, just make sure that you monitor for that, because
Absolutely.
people will use that opportunity to sell their program.
Right. We'll be very mindful of that.
We're still going to have our group Q&A, not Q&A, but when we meet with each applicant to get more details, right?
Yeah, that's the second part.
Are you guys still getting?
That's the second part.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You guys still getting feedback from me?
Yeah, it's still coming through. So the second part of that is we would like to try to schedule the Q&A sessions with each of the applicants for your regular meeting in March. I believe that's March 9th. So rather than having a special meeting or 2 special meetings to try to get everyone scheduled, we're going to try to get all of the applicants scheduled for that March 9th meeting. With the understanding that there may be some that aren't available because it's going to be on a weekday morning. And if we can't get everyone all in that one meeting, then we'll come up with a special time when we can get the people that aren't available, the groups that aren't available. But once the applications come in, we'll be able to see what we're working with as far as scheduling.
And there now, Josh, you're talking about the actual presentations.
Yes, the actual presentations.
Right. Once we have the grant applications in hand, then the next step is for each of those applicants to come in and present to us their idea. And they have about 10 minutes to do it. And then we have 10 minutes to discuss and query them further. And that just simply gives us as commissioners the opportunity to really go over their grant application with a fine-tooth comb. And if we have questions about it, how do you propose to do this? How are you going to market this? Have you thought about this? Then we already have their application in hand, filed. And this is our opportunity to learn more about it and their opportunity for them to explain a little bit more about us, more to us about it, things that they didn't maybe include on their actual application. And that's the meeting that we hope to be able to have as part of our regular March meeting. So anything else, Josh?
I think that's it. Last year we set the deadline as March 1st. I'm assuming that date still works. It seems like we might be a couple weeks ahead of where we were last year. I probably will not be able to get this out and posted this week. I'm hoping early next week I can get the application live. So that gives us probably 6 full weeks to accept applications. If the commission thinks that's adequate, we can leave the March 1st deadline on there.
Sounds good.
So application.
Josh, I'm sorry, Josh, can you update that form yourself, or do you need me to update it?
I'm going to take a look at that form. Did you create that, Robin?
Yeah, I did. So you should be able to edit it if you have the right software. So
Okay. Yeah, I have the software to do that. We've been transitioning to web-based forms because with a web-based form, we can have everyone actually fill in their content and then submit it online.
Beautiful.
So we may not use this form at all. I have to take a look at it and see what kind of restrictions our website has. It looks like everything that's on here we can do. Our website form would allow people to upload documents too, which I think we asked them to do with this.
That is great, Josh.
And that would eliminate anybody trying to having to hand fill it out, which is problematic for us too.
Yeah, great.
But I will work on that probably first thing next week and get that out. If I have any issues or any questions on the format part, then I'll give you a call.
So Josh, because March 1st is a Tuesday, should we, is that going to be okay?
The deadline's fine, just as long as I have enough time to compile everything together for your March 9th meeting.
Right.
I think March 1st gives you guys plenty of time to review them before we have the applicants come in.
So we would have the deadline would be March 1st. Our applicant presentations would be on March 9th.
Yeah.
And then we would make our decision on April 13th.
That we'll have to look at the scheduling on that and see when it comes up. April 13th is kind of late to do that.
I think so too, yeah.
Depending on how many applicants, we could do it at the March 9th meeting. Or if we need to have a special meeting, we could look at doing that.
Okay.
But let's wait and see how many applications come in and how long we think that's going to take.
Okay. Sounds great to me. So are there any other changes that people feel a need to make on our application in addition to just changing the dates?
No, looks good.
Okay. Josh, I guess it's in your good hands now then.
Okay, yep, I will try to get this out first thing next week. Yeah, we've got the appointment of a new council member on Tuesday next week, so things are going to be a little bit tight, but I'm going to try to get out early.
Wow, and that's a big important meeting too.
Yeah, that'll be a big one.
No kidding. All right, so let's see. That's all we have with discussion items. Commissioner reports and comments. Lynn, you want to give us an update on Harbor Arbor Art?
Okay. How do I sound now?
Okay.
Yeah, much better.
Is there
much better?
Yeah. Oh, hey. Maybe that was creating some kind of feedback. Harbor Arbor Art. Yeah, we can. Site number 3 installment of the Harbor Arbor Art. I think hopefully all of you guys have been by to see it in person. The new piece by Jeff Samadowski. I do want to talk about Jeff the carver mentioned one way to help that piece last a little bit longer, to have it elevated a little bit off the ground. Right now it's this giant log that's on the ground. So, I'd like to request that the I don't know, or Public Works, if they could put 2-3 logs under there that could elevate it just enough to have airflow going under there that'll help it last. Josh, what's the procedure for making that request?
I can check in with Peru and see if they can do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be obvious, like enough to let some air flow through there. So yeah, if you would asking about that and seeing if we need to do anything on our side about that.
Yep, that should be completely up to operations. I'll see if that's something they can do or if they're willing to do, and we'll go from there.
Okay, great. We need a new site for 2022, which is too, which is, I don't know. I don't even know snags and opportunities in Grandview Forest. So we need to be on the lookout for another site. I'd like to get a site identified earlier this year instead of we took until it ended up being late in the year before we got it done. So I've got it done. So my goal is a new site sooner than later, maybe in the next 2 months, so we can get this process going again. And so when I started this project, I had a Harbor Arbor Art subcommittee, and we lost I had 1 or 2 arts commissioners. There was 2 parks commissioners involved with me, and everybody's gone now. So I don't really have an official subcommittee, except that I recently asked Samantha if she would join me, because one of the projects we need to focus on is how on each of these sites, how to acknowledge what the project is, the name of the artist. I asked Samantha, and she agreed to join my subcommittee, and invite anybody else who would like to join us and discuss that. But thanks, Samantha, for agreeing to help with that. I think you've got a whole lot of expertise that I don't even know where to be. We're going to start talking about, what we need to do to label these sites. It's about that. Let us know. Let me see what else. That is Arbor Art Project.
Excellent.
Oh, Matt has a question.
I wanted to compliment that project. It was so fun to go into the forest on search of new sculptures. And if I could, whether you may not need me, but I'd be happy to help staff your
Oh, you wanted to join the subcommittee?
Lynn, I meant as a staff, when you need staff assistance.
Oh.
And advice on signage and so forth.
Oh, okay. Great. Thank you so much.
You're not alone on that one. Let's do it together.
Great. Okay. Good. Thank you so much. Yeah, let me see. Oh, I will say too, when I was listening in on the Parks Commission meeting, Will Appleton had suggested that consider putting some other more prominent signage somewhere around the park that lets people know that there's carvings in the park. That's something I hadn't really thought about. I'm not a big fan of just adding signs everywhere, because there are so many signs around, but it was a suggestion, and maybe it's something that we need to think about more when there's more art to see or discover. I don't know. I want to know what you get. A larger sign at one of the entrances or somewhere that says, hey, look out for these Harbor Arbor art. What do you guys think about that?
That would be another reason to have an art tour brochure.
Right. Yeah.
Samantha, thanks so much for being willing to work with Lynn on that. That's great.
Yeah, we'll get together soon.
Yeah, and Lynn, I have another question. Did you ever have a chance to check out the possibilities that the two parties whatever that little woods is called behind
Shaw,
on the edge of Shaw Park?
Mm-hmm. And I didn't get out there yet. I think that came up after we had already identified this particular site. And no, I have not been out there to check out that perimeter of that park around there. Yeah, I haven't been out there yet.
Okay. Any other discussion on Harbor Arbor Art? I think it's such a wonderful project, and I love the new one that Jeff did. That's just So,
I know, I'm really happy with that one.
no kidding. Lynn, since you mentioned sitting in on the Parks Commission meeting, do you want to give us any more report on anything that was discussed there, since you're our liaison?
Yeah, I wanted to sort how this works because Anastasia's here today. When I was on the Parks Commission meeting, I sort of gave an update about the arts, and I didn't know if you wanted me to let you know what's going on with Parks, or since Anastasia's here, maybe you should do that.
Oh, sure, both of you.
Do you want to start about your impressions, and I can jump in?
Let's see. I just had, well, for one, I was gonna say, hey, we have a new parks manager. That's Matt. So maybe if Matt's really fully introduced himself, but yeah, Matt is our new parks manager, which is a huge deal. And mostly what I was gonna say, Anastasia, is that you've been talking about the pros plan.
Yes, exactly. The last few months, it is our big project. So the PROS plan is the Parks and Recreation and Open Spaces plan. It is an opportunity we have every, I think, 6 years to assess the situation of our parks, identify all our problems, or the things that we don't have, or the things that we have but don't work properly, and all the needs that we don't meet, what the community needs that we don't provide. And so this plan has many steps. We had surveys done, open houses done. The surveys were both mailed to our community and sent back to us. They were also online. So we gathered a lot of information from the community with several different ways. And we have compiled all this information, and we are working on the final plan that we will send to the state. It's the Recreation and Conservation Office that will provide us with funds for the next years. It is basically the plan. It is an opportunity for us to identify our needs, but it is a prerequisite for our city to have funding for our parks related projects in the future. So with this plan, we identify, we highlight our policies and our goals for the next years. But from what I have understood already, it is not binding. It's just a guideline for where we want to go. And then the specific plans, the specific projects are discussed each year, and each time we have a budget and a plan for our city. So that's what we have been doing the last few months. We are on time. More or less, we will meet our deadline to send this plan to the organization, the office that we need to send it. For this, we had a really lot of help from our consultants. Let me find the name. So we have a company that helped us compile all the information and conduct all the research and compiles the plan. It is Conservation Techniques, And the name is Steve Du, the person who is responsible for this, and he has the company has helped us a really lot, and also we have a really lot of help. We had a really lot of help from our new parks manager. Yeah, the last meeting for me was really really important, because the last meeting you were there, I understood many things that I had not understood for many months. So it was very clarifying. So thank you very much for this. Yeah, and that's the whole thing that we have been trying to do the last few months. We have a lot of things that are on hold because of the pandemic, of course, and yeah, we are optimistic for the future.
I gotta say, that is a massive amount of work. You know, as someone who Parks Commission, that is so impressive what you guys have been doing. And I think the general public would have no clue. Research, the background, all of the and all the work that goes into just thinking about the future of our parks. And you know, it's a massive amount of work. Charlie, I would compare it to all the work that you did and then the team did for putting together the arts and culture element of the comprehensive plan.
It's very similar, because
The parks,
the pros plan is actually a comp plan amendment, like our arts and culture amendment that was just approved by council. And but the pros plan as a comp plan amendment is governed by a lot of state regulations. And it is a massive process. And I'll interject here that Gig Harbor Now is following this and reporting on it, and it's an assignment that I have as a reporter for Gig Harbor Now. That you can go to gigharbornow.org and you'll see our updates, and as things develop, you'll find it on Gig Harbor Now. We did a story on the results of the survey that the Parks Commission took, and it's an incredibly complex process. Matt, this would maybe be a good time for you to jump in and tell us a little bit more about that, and also tell us a little bit more about your own self, because you're brand new to us and we want to know who Matt is.
Well, thank you so much. I first have to compliment Anastasia. That was a really great summary of what occurred. And I felt like she educated all of us, myself even included, about how it works and what it's about. I really liked how she talked about something like it's a prerequisite of the state to turn it in. That's a great word. And that's referring to the pros plan. I am a long range planner. Have been for about 20 plus years. I actually got started in long range growth management work at the city of Bremerton back in year 2000. I did some town planning in Arizona before that, but growth management really appealed to me with the idea that we'd have long-term community vision that we're responsible and accountable for. But what ended up happening, and I worked at the city of Gig Harbor back in 2006, I was doing a lot of policy work and development processing. And I was here as an associate planner, but I really got interested in the outcomes of the work and that there be a public service deliverable. So it attracted me to parks planning. I was here to help facilitate a master plan for the Veterans Park, Marvin Leo, as you might know it. And the work really inspired me, and I ended up going to work full-time in parks planning at Kitsap County in 2007 and did my first management position within parks planning. And I've had a fun career, really, because I keep chasing parks. And it's brought me to a couple different locations. I did move across country during the recession and ended up working for the city of Raleigh, where I have some family in North Carolina. I was in their parks department and did some neat things, including a big community center and a rework of a downtown campus that was actually a historic property. And I just find the work very rewarding, and I was glad to come back home, work for Metro Parks Tacoma in 2016, briefly, but they needed my help with some of their larger projects on the waterfront. And then I got to work most recently at the city of Covington doing parks planning and development work, but I wanted to be home, and this is my area. I'm living in Tacoma, but I'm from the West Sound. That all said, might sum up who I am. And in terms of your question about the pros plan, I think it was so well covered. I would just let you guys know that the draft of the report is going to our Parks Commission. They're going to get it and it becomes a public record. Of course, anybody can, but they will be reviewing the draft this week. And they are coming together to share their first reactions, really, hopefully their substantial concerns, if any, about the document next week on the 19th of January. So on the 19th is a special meeting of the Parks Commission, and they will have had the document ideally over the weekend and had a chance to really tell us any large concerns, because they have it on their agenda for their regular meeting the first week of February. So that's the 2nd of February, to review the results, any amendments and changes as they requested, and ideally be able to recommend it forward onto the city council. So you've got to note that there's a study session of the Parks Commission next Wednesday on the 19th, and then their regular meeting, they may recommend it to go forward. That would be on the 2nd of February, also a Wednesday. And if that all occurs, City Council will have a study session in mid-February. That's been scheduled on the 17th. And then City Council has it on their preliminary agenda to have it in front of them for approval on the 28th of February. So those are just the fine details, but so that you're tracking, if you're so inclined and want to know the status of what it is and where it's going. That's the goal. And staff responsibility is to then get it into the state, ideally on the 1st of March. And we're excited to do that, to show the state that we have a park system, that we know it well, we know our needs well, we've studied our deficits, so to say, but also our opportunities. That we're organized and committed as a city to maintaining these assets and improving them. When you do so and you show your growth levels, the state says, you look like an organization we can help fund. You look like you're compliant with the Growth Management Act. You look like you're committed to a long-term vision with some good strategies to get there as a system, not just a project here and there. So that's in essence the effort we're doing. And just to finish up, I will point out we made a decision. I was pleased to hear Charlie bring this up, but it is related to the comprehensive plan, the PROS plan. And what we will do is, in the annual update of the comprehensive plan, we will adopt almost entirely the PROS plan into the comprehensive plan. There will be a public hearing at that time. There will be to the Planning Commission as well, a meeting and opening to make sure that there's nothing contradictory in the PROS plan. So there's still public process ahead. As Anastasia brought up, we're adopting it now in compliance with state requirements as a non-binding document. When it becomes the comprehensive plan, it doesn't, I wouldn't say it locks us down, but it has a higher level and it becomes more of an ordinance item. So I don't know if any of you really care about all that technical stuff, but anytime you have a question or an interest, or you want to do a park tour with me, I'm all for it.
Thank you so much, Matt. Wow, what a great introduction to you.
Welcome, Matt. Thank you.
What an astounding background you have. We're in good hands, I think. So here's your assignment. Find us Harbor Arbor art trees, okay?
I love it.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Another thing, because I was in a mission meeting, Ben Coronado mentioned that he was going on a site for the new sports complex, and I said, hey, you might mention that that's going to be an expansion of our Harbor Arbor art. So just being able to keep that conversation going, so what we're doing or doesn't slip through the cracks with the parks.
Very good. Excellent. 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 Any other discussion or questions for Matt, since we have him here with us? Thanks very much. And and welcome. This is going to be great fun to be working with you. So the next item is Commissioner reports and comments. Comprehensive Plan Arts and Culture Element, which has got my name beside it. I believe that I mentioned to you all by email at the very last meeting of the old City Council in December. They approved our Arts and Culture Element addition to the comprehensive plan.
Woo, woo, woo.
No kidding. No kidding. Many years of work, many hours of arm wrestling and thoughtful negotiations and listening. And it's a huge accomplishment for this commission. It says that the city understands that arts and culture are important to the people of Gig Harbor and to our quality of life and to our creative spirit. And it codifies that thought in our comprehensive plan. So it's just a huge, huge thing. The vote was 6-1. The only dissenting commissioner was former Commissioner Jim Franich. Jim and I go way back, and we have always agreed to disagree on some things. And he was not reelected. We have a new commissioner, a new council member who was elected in his place. I will say that the new council members are very supportive of arts and culture. So I think we're in good hands, and now we have the comp plan element to back us up, and onward and upward. Are there any other commissioner reports or comments? Anything that you've done that are arts related that you would like to share with us?
I just have a question.
This is Robin. I just wanted to say before we move on, Charlie, thank you for stewarding that project. It took 3 years to get this through. And it was because of all your hard work and relationships with people on the council, but also people in the community that made it a reality. So thank you so much. I can't think of a better tribute to all the hard work you put in.
Thank you, Robin. That's very kind of you. But it was, as you know, it was an effort of many, many people that worked very hard and that are very passionate about the importance of arts and culture in our community, in our world. So, but thanks very much for that compliment. Any other commissioner comments? Dan, anything that you've seen or observed that is important? You haven't talked at all, so unmute. You're muted, Dan.
Not now.
Okay.
I don't talk much. I listen a lot. I'll talk when it's necessary. Anyway, no, I haven't seen. I think it's all great. I really like what's going on in this community. I'd like to know more about the mural project. So that's always of an interest because we've been through many cities that have had some really nice murals. Little towns and big cities.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be relying on your experiences and expertise as we move forward on that. Thank you.
The one project we had in Wenatchee was putting murals on the traffic light controllers. And we had children actually paint them, and they turned out really well.
Are those the power boxes that?
The control boxes, yeah.
Okay.
For the traffic lights. I think there was 50 in town. I don't know if they did. I think they painted about 15 of them that were prominent in the city. So that turned out to be a good project, and the schools got involved, supervised by members of the committees and this sort of thing.
What a wonderful thing. I love when we can encourage creative projects within the school system with students. That's just, it's such an enriching thing. So, anything else, Dan?
Not right now. That's about it.
Thank you very much. Samantha, any observations or comments?
Sure. I just wanted to, again, thank you and Robin for cheerleading the comp plan. I know that that has been your agenda and your baby for a long time. So I'm pleased that that came to positive fruition. I did have a question about, now that we have this comp plan approved that for the arts and culture element, does that change like our reporting structure or our budget structure in terms of where we fit in the city now?
It gives us a more prominent position, I think. Josh, do you want to add anything to that?
Sorry. No, the arts and culture element doesn't change the status of the Arts Commission at all. You're still part of the Parks Operating Fund. You're still technically in the municipal code, you're supported by the Parks Department. So unless we do a code update, all that's going to stay the same.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Okay, anything else? Lynn?
Yeah, just unrelated to all that. Something else that came up at the Parks Commission meeting. Someone asked me what's up with that project where we were going to inventory. We were going to inventory all of this. Someone on staff that was going to help with that. Who agreed to update inventory on the website. I don't even know what happened. To that.
I think that's still on the plan for this year.
That is part of the tourism department now. The tourism department has that in their budget, part of their LTAC fund. So when Laura gets her staff up and running and they have time, they'll be the ones that take that on.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to schedule it. Okay.
Good question though. Anything else? Anything, Josh, anything from you that we need to be heads up about?
Nothing for me.
Hey, Charlie, it's Robin. I just wanted to give a heads up that, and I'll send this invite to the people in the committee. This Thursday night, tomorrow, there'll be the Arts Heritage Luminary Awards, which are awards given out by the Washington State Arts Commission. This past year, we changed the awards to honor those who did extraordinary service during the period of COVID last year. So, and I wanted to thank publicly Sam for being on the judging committee with me for the what we call our Southwest region, which is us. But I'll forward the invite. It's on Zoom, or I think it's Zoom, streaming on YouTube, sorry. So I will forward that along if you're interested. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, please share that with us. Is that the one that was the Governor's Heritage Awards? Robin?
I had to unmute again. Yes, it is normally the Arts and Heritage Awards and they just changed it to the Luminary Awards this year. I will really call out, and Samantha, please add anything, but the winner for our region was the Pacific Center,
Asia Pacific,
the Asia Pacific Center in Tacoma. They did an amazing job, even with reaching a culturally adverse community to immunization and testing. Their reach was amazing, and what they did was amazing in supporting the community and the arts, and they received the one for our region. So that's it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And the woman who founded the Asia Pacific Cultural Center, Patsy Sewer O'Connell, lives here in Gig Harbor, and she was awarded one of those Governor's individual Heritage Treasure Award several years ago.
Yeah.
She's a member of the Peninsula Art League. She's an extraordinary painter, wonderful, wonderful woman. And I will also mention that she and the Asia Pacific Cultural Center recently were confirmed for an LTAC grant from Gig Harbor to present their Korean Chuseok Full Moon Festival, which will happen down in probably Skansie and Jersich Park this fall. It was scheduled to be held in Gig Harbor this last year, but then they had to cancel it at the last minute because of the surge in COVID. But they went ahead and reapplied for an LTAC grant, and it was confirmed by council Monday night. So we really have the Asia Pacific Cultural Center kind of has its roots here in Gig Harbor. And I'm tickled to know that they've gotten another award.
Yes, well deserved too.
So anything else? Well, look here. Did you have more, Robin? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Look at us at 11:15. If there's no further business, may I have a, well, let's see. Our next regular meeting is February 9th. And Josh will get our Creative Endeavor grants application form online early next week. And then Robin, I guess you and Lynn and I will figure out about a time frame for our little question and answer, very informal question and answer. And then we will reconvene on February the 9th. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn the January 12th Arts Commission meeting at 11:14 a.m.
Dan seconds, or I think Dan raised his hand first. So moved by Samantha, seconded by Dan. Are there any objections? Hearing none, we are adjourned.
Yay. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Everybody, Happy New Year.
New Year.